Hey everyone, welcome back to another out of spec guide video. I'm Max, and today you join me to discuss basically influences Tesla has on the rest of the auto industry, how it can affect you as an electric car buyer. I know for various reasons some of you may not be interested in buying a Tesla. Maybe the Model 3 and their Model Y, their popular volume models, don't appeal to you. Maybe you have other reasons, totally fine. I don't drive a Tesla. I drive a Polestar 2, which is a different electric car. However, I think you have to watch Tesla if you're in this market looking at an electric car. Either you're getting your first one or maybe you're trading or whatever. It's very important because they basically make everyone else dance according to their prices, their features, a lot of their technology. We have to talk about this. I've got receipts to prove it. We'll demonstrate some interesting opportunities that come about just in the last few weeks, all because of Tesla's changes, price cuts, and some of the way their vehicles are built. So let's discuss all that and get into it. So the two really most important vehicles by far in Tesla's lineup are the Tesla Model 3 and really, if we're talking about the American market, the Tesla Model Y, which is the lifted crossover variant of the Model 3. This is a hugely important vehicle because it's super practical. It's actually pretty affordable. They've been dropping the price. There might be an even cheaper version with a slightly different battery technology coming out. And this vehicle is like the benchmark for the rest of the auto industry. Everyone tries to copy this vehicle for good reason. You may not like how it looks. I personally don't. Maybe you see too many of them in your neighborhood. It doesn't matter. People buy them the same way that people used to buy the Toyota Corolla or Honda CR-V or RAV4s. Now, honestly, like here where I live in Boulder, I see these everywhere, let alone if you live somewhere like the Bay Area or many places in the East Coast. I'm sure you see Teslas all the time, really everywhere around the United States. These have just gotten so popular because they're now eligible for that full tax credit, again, as of this year, right? So lots of exciting things with that. But this video isn't all about Tesla. It's about how Tesla affects everyone else, even the, other automakers. So the big obvious news here is charging. If you've been following the news at all, and if you haven't, check out Out of Spec Guide. We've got some videos on this, as well as the other Out of Spec channels. We've all talked about this. But basically, right, Tesla's opening up their charging connector and standard, North American charging standard, to other automakers. Ford and General Motors have made deals with them. And now other makers of charging hardware, right, like Blink, ChargePoint, Tritium, a mixture basically, right, of network operators and people who make charging hardware for DC fast chargers. They're all announcing compatibility with Tesla's connector, meaning that a lot of extra Tesla connectors, not even just the supercharger network, are going to be around the country. And they're not just going to be charging Teslas, they're going to be charging Ford vehicles and General Motors vehicles. And I'm sure to come more vehicles, which we'll learn about. Seems like there's really a lot of momentum here, and it's just undeniable. So that's exciting. But that's not what this video is about. It's actually about the vehicles itself, because Tesla made an announcement a few years ago that they were going to give a lot of their vehicles to Hertz, or sell their vehicles, not give them away, as part of a rental fleet. This has been many people's experiences with a Tesla car or an electric car, period. Just driving a Tesla as part of a Hertz rental. Now, Polestar made a similar deal a little bit later with their currently only model on sale, the Polestar 2. It was only about 65,000 versus 100,000 Teslas, but I think that Hertz maybe has ordered more Teslas since then, and Polestar is doing their best to ramp up production, get their cars out there, so they're in rental fleets. Why does this matter for you as a customer? Well, it's because Polestar, even though they say they're not interested in competing with Tesla on price wars, their CEO said this, they see themselves as more of a luxury, sporty brand. They're going to let maybe their sister brand Volvo, or honestly other electric car makers, duke that out. That's at least what their CEO said. I get that. Here's a picture of their Polestar 3, right, an upcoming luxury, sporty SUV. Totally fair argument. I get it. They're competing in a different space. And yet, when I look at Polestar 2 prices on the used market, I see that they've dropped precipitously. And this is no coincidence. This happens to do with basically a lot of them being former rental cars. I know this because I bought one. I bought a Polestar 2 that was heavily, heavily depreciated 2 months ago because of basically, I believe it was Enterprise, because Enterprise and Hertz both made a bunch of deals for electric cars, but Enterprise had a bunch of Polestar 2s and decided, oh, we don't want all these anymore, or we're going to replace them with Teslas. I don't know exactly what happened. Basically, I know that a lot of rental cars at the same time came off the market. Polestar has this inventory, so they put it in their certified pre-owned channel. All of a sudden, the Polestar 2, a pretty appealing, honestly, Tesla Model 3 competitor, sedan-ish shape, nice, compelling, all-wheel drive electric vehicle. It's actually sort of affordable on the used market. They depreciated heavily. I mean, if these prices look high to you, you should see what they are going for new still, even without tax credit eligibility, unless you lease one. But used Polestars, that's just one small example of how Tesla's influenced a brand that said they wouldn't even, engage in price wars. They kind of have, because guess what? They've got lots of inventory, similar to how maybe Tesla has had lots of inventory with the Tesla Model 3. We've seen price cuts there as well. Then, very excitingly, in the last week, we saw the Volvo EX30 unveiled. Now, this is the first, I think, of what we're about to see a lot of. Really cheap, $35,000 starting price Tesla Model Y competitor, or somewhere in between. It's actually a bit smaller than a Tesla Model Y. There's absolutely no third row option. There's really not a lot of room in the second row. But this is the kind of car that a lot of people love to buy. A small crossover, it's got ground clearance, and this one's fast. Like a Tesla, it's good. They're advertising their 0 to 60 time prominently. That's never something I would have expected to see from Volvo. But again, Tesla Model Y and the Model Y Performance setting this benchmark. Other automakers, including Volvo, who you don't typically think of as a performance automaker, are like, screw it, we're going to give this thing really powerful electric motors. It's a really exciting upcoming vehicle. Can't wait to get my hands on it next year. Kyle took a look at it on Out of Spec Reviews. Super exciting. But a lot of this vehicle's influence is because of Tesla. I think the reason it has to be so competitive is because, frankly, the Tesla Model Y is really competitive. And it makes some moves that Tesla previously been the only one to do. It only has one screen. There's no driver display behind the steering wheel. You just have the central screen. That is straight out of the Tesla playbook. Why did they do it? Well, Volvo will tell you, and I guess so will Tesla, that it's more minimal and focused and less distracting because there's only one screen instead of two. The real reason is just cost saving. It's cheaper to build a vehicle that way, so that's why they've done it. Similarly, they've also done, I think, one step further in Tesla. They've taken out the front speakers and just put in the sound bar, and they say this saves space and it's good for the passengers. I don't know if it'll sound as good as a bunch of differentiated speaker channels, but they're doing moves like this straight out of the Tesla playbook, consolidating, simplifying their car to get it to a really appealing price point. That is really interesting, and I don't think this car would have existed without the Tesla Model Y kind of dominating the auto industry. Now, aside from the Volvo brand, I've talked about Volvo and Polestar, we can see right now in the market, Volkswagen ID4s are getting cheap, like really cheap. We're looking at new ones under MSRP, which as of a year ago was inconceivable. And a lot of this has to do with the Model Y price cuts, tax eligibility. Now, new ID4s built in Chattanooga, Tennessee for the US do have tax credit eligibility. Nonetheless, a Volkswagen ID4 to most buyers of electric vehicles has an uphill battle against the Tesla Model Y. We're seeing a lot of these kind of pile up in inventory on dealer lots. So for once, we're actually seeing them go below MSRP. Look at this. I mean, on AutoTrader, just the amount of new configurations of the ID4 just under MSRP, significantly under. This one is 10 grand under MSRP. This is insane. This is really exciting. If you're in the market, again, for a Tesla or not a Tesla, any electric car, this competitiveness is changing the game. And then when it comes to how cars are built, we're seeing the new Mustang Mach-E from Ford, a direct Tesla Model Y competitor. When this car came out, it really was benchmarking a Model Y, like hard. It's going to have LFP batteries. And for those not in the know, LFP stands for lithium iron phosphate, or Fe, right, the chemical symbol for iron. It's basically a slightly different kind of battery chemistry. It's not quite as advanced in terms of density as the lithium ion batteries that we see typically with nickel, manganese, cobalt chemistry and a lot of other electric cars, meaning you get a heavier battery but slightly less range, but they have appealing characteristics. You can charge them to full. They actually like to be charged to full periodically, like once a week. And importantly, they're pretty cheap. They're actually pretty cheap to make. Most of these are made by CATL, which is a Chinese battery manufacturer who Tesla works with the Model 3. Now, the Model 3 is currently the only vehicle in Tesla's lineup that has LFP. However, it's been heavily rumored they're trying to integrate it into the Tesla Model Y. I'm sure this is going to happen either in a rear-wheel drive only configuration or maybe an all-wheel drive configuration. Who knows? But I'm sure it's coming. We already see a Model 3. Ford's making this bet with the Mach-E because it's going to help them drop the price. Ford very much publicly is engaging in price wars. Jim Farley has said he wants to be competitive with Tesla, and so the Mustang Mach-E for the 2024 model year is cheaper, has more range, slightly different battery technology, really cool. Now, how are they getting more range with a, like I told you, less dense, less advanced battery? I don't know. Maybe they're just putting more battery, making the car heavier. I honestly don't know. We'll have to take a look at the Mach-E, the new one, when it comes out. But nonetheless, it does look like an appealing value proposition, absolutely inspired by Tesla. Back to charging, Rivian. You may have heard of, right? The startup competitor of Tesla, also in California, kind of like a, doing Tesla's model for a slightly different class of vehicle, making really cool trucks and SUVs. They poached a lot of Tesla employees for their charging network because Rivian is building out this thing called the Rivian Adventure Network, and they plan to build 3,500 of these by the end of the year. Will that happen? I don't know, but they have built a few of them. I'm sure they'll have several hundred. I think they already do around the country. And this is straight up the supercharger model. They're trying to build their own proprietary chargers. They say they'll open these up to other brands. Hasn't happened yet, but it will happen, I'm sure. And that's exciting. This is all really inspired by Tesla because Rivian, RJ, their CEO, and the people at Rivian are smart. They looked at Tesla. They saw the benefit the supercharger network was bringing to customers buying Tesla vehicles, going on road trips, and they decided, hey, we're going to do that too. So they're doing it at a smaller scale. They're not, they're way earlier on this development ladder than Tesla, but they're making the same moves. And I think that's great. I want them to build more, and I do want these to be opened up the same way Tesla superchargers seem to be opening up just gradually in the US. Then we have, General Motors saying no more CarPlay in our electric cars. And while this was a kind of controversial move to describe it charitably, it is straight out of the Tesla playbook. As you can see, this Inside EV article written by John Neff, his headline, GM joins Tesla. That's really what they did. Tesla has famously not allowed Apple CarPlay or Android Auto in their cars, even though I'm sure a Model 3 or Model Y is perfectly capable of it. Tesla wants you to use their software, and that's not the worst thing in the world. Having used Tesla software, I can say it's really good. Both the route planning for road trips, for maps, music. I think there's an Apple Music app for Tesla as well as Spotify natively built into the car. So once you sign in, it's actually kind of nice to have the car do all that on its computer. Its computer is pretty decent. Will GM's computer be as good as Tesla? Will their software stack up? I don't know. I'm kind of pessimistic about that. But regardless, the point is they're making similar moves, right? GM, like Tesla, wants to control the software. What that means is that when you buy a General Motors car, you're not going to have access to your smartphone mirroring because car makers are following Tesla's playbook. And as a consumer, this matters because, well, if you want to know what your future electric car is going to do, look at a Tesla today, because that seems to be what everyone is doing. Then we look at, of course, General Motors like Ford adopting charging. Upcoming vehicles like the Blazer EV will be neck and neck in performance, in competition, for the Tesla Model Y. Even cheaper is another vehicle, the Equinox EV, which, like the Volvo EX30, will slide in slightly below the Model Y in price. Very appealing. So even though some of these are slightly around the Model Y, they're all competing in its orbit, and it is hugely influential. Everyone wants to make a cheap crossover, and it seems like now with the news that we've heard is that these, maybe not initial model year, maybe 2025, so I guess next year, but very shortly, these Blazer EVs and all these next generation General Motors electric cars will have the Tesla charging port. So they're going to be a lot like a Tesla in that respect. So summary of this video, we've gone through a lot of things today. I just wanted to basically go through a litany of evidence to show you that you need to follow Tesla if you're interested in buying an electric car. It doesn't matter if it's a Tesla or not a Tesla, because when you look at Tesla's prices, what Tesla does to the car market because of their size and their scale, their influence is undeniable. And when you see that, it can empower you as a consumer to walk into a dealership and say, hey, that Volkswagen ID4 or that Mustang Mach-E I'm buying, Is that really worth it? Does it stack up to a Model Y? Doesn't matter if you'd want to buy the Model Y or not, or Model 3, if you're in the sedan space. There's fewer competitors for Model 3 because sedans are a way smaller overall market. There's my Polestar 2, there's the Hyundai Ioniq 6, and that's kind of about it in the US at the moment, if you're interested in a smaller vehicle like that. But undeniably, right, they're all in competition. They're all going to be influenced by it. We've seen it with the Polestar 2 pricing. Hyundai Ioniq 6 has not really come to market in the US yet for sale, but it's arriving very shortly, right? Reviews of it have come in. It's a great vehicle, but I believe we're going to start to see price cuts on them at dealer lots, the same way we have with Volkswagen ID4, all because of Tesla's influence. So keep an eye on what Tesla is doing with pricing. It'll tell you a lot about what other manufacturers are about to do in the coming weeks and months. That's kind of just been my PSA. I was hoping to do some efficiency testing today. That'll have to wait till later this week because thunderstorms right now. Apologies if you heard thunder during this video, but hope this has been a helpful video. Comment below if you think there's other influences that I missed that have been affecting the car market for new EV buyers. Love to hear about it, and I'm sure other people watching this video would too. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Max, and I'll see you next time.